Welcome, welcome, friends. Thanks for tuning in with me as I'm pretty fired up about this episode and the chance I have to sit down with someone pretty near and dear to me, both personally and professionally. I know you're going to absolutely not only love her as a human being, but everything she has to share about what it's like to run a killer wedding photography business and how she's ventured into the world of photographing personal brands and influencers in the LA area and beyond. Her name is Ashley Burns, and trust me when I tell you that this girl is a powerhouse. And if you are looking to feel motivated and inspired, then you're definitely in the right place. With 8 years in the business, her work has graced various online and print publications, including Style Me Pretty, People Magazine, The Knot, Vogue, Wedding Chicks, Us Weekly Magazine, and more. Ashley and I became fast internet friends when she found me to build her website, and we've been friends ever since.
Welcome to At Home with Emma Rose. Your host, Emma Rose, has learned everything she knows the absolute hardest way possible and will help you navigate through the process of clearing the clutter, calling out your well-worn habits that might need changing, and finding the path to real, sustainable success in your business and life. Here's your host, educator, photographer, web designer, and latte lover, Emma Rose.
Ashley, thank you so much for being with me here today. I'm just so excited to sit down with you in this space and to just talk about your journey and important things you've learned along the way.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to support you on this next endeavor, and I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Of course. Yeah, no, this is going to be a ton of fun. I just want to jump right in and give you the mic to tell us a bit more about you, where you're from, how you came to be a photographer, and kind of where you're at right now. So just talk us through it, girl.
Yeah. So I feel like you had such a great intro for me, but I am based in Los Angeles. I've had my wedding and branding business for 8 years, but more specifically have been working exclusively in wedding and branding the past few years. And yeah, it's been crazy.
I love it. No, and you are my busiest friend for sure. No, I just remember being down there, this past summer and looking at your pipeline. You got a lot of stuff going on, girl, but you do it so well and you do it so beautifully, like with the head on your shoulders. Friends, if you're listening, Ashley came to visit me a few years ago. And if you know where I live, just know we don't have a stoplight. There's no Starbucks. There's not a whole lot here. So she got a little taste of my world.
But it was a culture shock for sure.
It was it's still a culture shock for me. But no, I love it. But it's just our worlds could not be more different. And I think that's what's really fun about our friendship. Because a lot of our listeners are photographers. Diving into that, when did you realize photography deeply resonated with you? Like, how did you start your photography journey?
Yeah, great question. So I was really young when I picked up my first camera, but it was served as more of a hobby. And then when I was in high school, I took 3 different semesters of photography. And then my senior year of high school, I got offered to shoot my first wedding. So from the get-go, it was kind of like I was thrown into it and we'll see what happens. And I feel really lucky that it ended up happening that way. I think it was a blessing and a curse ultimately. So I got offered my first wedding my senior year of high school. And
wow, I can't even imagine shooting a wedding like my senior year of high school. That's awesome.
Me either. I look back and I'm like, oh no, what were you doing? But no, I'm so happy. So I kind of just got thrown into it. And ever since that day that I shot that wedding back in 2010, I knew that was what I was supposed to be doing. But I still went through the motions like any teenager would when you see all your friends going off to college and, pursuing other things and kind of living that college life. I mean, I kind of had FOMO. So I still went to school for 2 years and I went off and visited my friends. I still kind of acted, my age in that regard while still having a photography business on the side. And then it wasn't until 2 years into having my business and also being in college that I decided, my business is really starting to take off and I need to focus and I need to give this 100% because this is what I want to do. And if I'm already, in it, then I need to be in it 100%.
Well, that's amazing that you were able to recognize that, especially so young, because I can attest to the reality of the college pressure. And yeah, I did get my bachelor's and everything because that's the route that I thought I was supposed to go. And I'm not using my degree, which is fine. I'm happy I have that under my name.
Absolutely.
But I love that you were in this in a time where that was not the way people were doing it, but yet something pulled at you and was a deeper calling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that I didn't have everybody's support initially just because, I was a trailblazer in that way, in the sense that like I wasn't doing what everybody else was doing at my age. And honestly, it was a lot harder to make that decision because I wanted to be doing what everybody else was doing. I wanted to be going to school and like getting my degree and all that stuff. But then what I really felt compelled to do was to do what I was passionate about, which was photography. And I already had my business and it didn't require me to stay in school the full 4 years. So that's why I kind of just went for it.
I love it. And when I met you, well, we were friends online for a while, but one of the things that stood out to me most when I went in to design your website, just the experience you've created with your clients. Like if you guys go to Ashley's website and read her reviews, what they've said about you is that you are so invested in the people you work with and your time and your heart. Let's just talk a little bit about how you've created this ABP culture. I mean, I don't know what you call it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds cool. Let's roll with that. Yeah. Client experience is so important to me. I think it's of the utmost importance. You're building your business, you should have key principles that you live by. And my number one things are integrity and client experience. And I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. Client experience is everything. I've told people when they're first starting out too, you could be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't give people a good experience, they're not going to remember you. Whereas, if you give people a great experience, they're going to remember you and they're going to come back each time. I've been so lucky to have clients that have been loyal to me for the past 8 years. And I was 17 when I started. So I knew nothing. I knew nothing. So the fact that I still have loyalty means the world to me. And I want to continue that out, hold true to that year after year. I mean, I say it all the time, and I'm sure even people that follow me get annoyed at me saying it, but my clients mean so much to me. I think more than they'll ever know.
Well, and it's very clear. It's not this fake thing that it's just, you feel it, at least as I've followed you over the years and gotten to know you. And I just think that's huge. I will be the first to admit that the client experience has always been a work in progress, and just how can we elevate it? The more you grow and the more your business grows, the more that really becomes clear. And I just think you're a really great example of what that looks like and how important it is.
Yeah, I think that above all, when we're in the business that we're here to service the clients. And I just feel like we need to do the best possible job in doing that. I hope that anybody that's servicing a client would kind of, they would be in line with the same philosophy.
I know you do less portraits now, and you and I actually even had that conversation when I was down in LA this past fall about the shift we were going through. And I'm really excited to dive into that, because this is the fun thing about being a wedding photographer when your business grows, and you can relate in that it goes beyond the wedding. You build these relationships with these people, and then they start a family, and then it turns into family sessions and senior sessions out of that. And it's exactly. It goes in a snowball effect like that, which is really exciting, but can also be really difficult when you are deciding what those limits are with what you're doing. And I sort of want to just touch on how things in the last year have shifted for you from weddings and portraits, how you got into the branding thing. And I want to hear more about what that is, and just give us some insight.
I think that based on when you came out and then maybe a month later, it all became very clear to me. Me and you kind of had that initial conversation.
We did.
Like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm kind of stumped on what to do. And then a month later, I actually did a mastermind with 3 other entrepreneurs that are well into their careers. And we were all kind of, ready to take our businesses to the next level. But there were fears in place, and there were, other things that, were kind of restricting us from just saying, okay, let's do this. And so within that month was so after we kind of had our initial conversation, and then after I did the mastermind, then it became more clear to me. And it was like after that day, I was like, okay, I need to really buckle down here and focus on what is fueling me and what makes me the happiest. And I think really what it boils down to is I've had some of the same clients that I've had for 8 years. So you also feel that loyalty to them as well, to continue the journey with them as they evolve and all of that. But in more recent years, the wedding side really started to pick up, And then I, dove into branding, and branding has become this whole other world for me. It's not something I ever went after or was even on my radar. I didn't even really know that it even existed at all. It's definitely a newer thing because social media is still new. 30 years ago when people were, doing things for their brand, they exclusively hired a model or a celebrity or whoever that was. And, they put it in print. It ran in an ad or, it was in a magazine or whatever it is. But now there's this whole social media world that has taken over, and it's really opened this space up for branding. I got involved with branding. I think it was, 2013 or 2014. Ever since then, it's just begun. It's evolved and evolved and evolved over the years. So
yeah. And so to dive into that a little bit more when we're talking, and maybe you're going to go there, but just about why people hire you for this and sort of what their purpose or what you're serving them. And so we can kind of get a deeper understanding of what is branding photography.
For sure. So branding photography is kind of a broad term for what I do. I work on personal brand. I work directly with brands and on sponsorships and campaigns. So I either work directly with like the talent / influencer, with the agency, and with the brand or business. It varies client to client, and I help them elevate their brand with visual content. And then that content lives mostly either on social media or their website. But if it's a bigger project, they can be collateral for a brand, and you can see that in stores. My days look very different. It's never the same, which keeps things exciting.
Right. I was going to say that probably makes it so fun for you because it never is the same, and you have these different clients and there's different moving parts in each one of them that makes it unique and keeps you on your toes a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think each person I work with stretches a different creative muscle for me, and some stretch
I love that.
creative muscles in one way versus the other. And so it definitely keeps you on your toes. Creatively, it is one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done, and I couldn't be more excited where that's going to go as I start to shift my focus more and more towards branding.
I love it. And I feel that shift with you and I see it. And it's pretty exciting. How did you start building your portfolio?
Like specific with branding?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with branding, it was an organic thing that happened. Like I said, it was kind of one of those things where it was not even something I really even knew about. But I had a already existing client start a blog. She had hired me on to start producing content for the blog. And this was so new for me. I had no idea, what to expect out of that. And then I really started to love it. Each shoot that we had, again, it kind of stretched me my creative muscles in a way that it hadn't before. And then from there, kind of a domino effect, from working in the blogging world. And then I started doing more stuff for magazines. And then from magazines, that kind of opened up connections with other people in the business. And then that's it's been a domino effect.
Yeah, for sure. No, I really love how you've, explored down this road. And I just can't wait to see what happens with it all. And with that being said, what advice do you have for anyone listening to this episode right now who might be like, oh, I want to jump into that? Like, where should they start?
Yeah. So when people initially kind of ask me about branding, they instantly think of like celebrities. And while I have shot celebrities, I love those clients. I don't really see them as celebrities. So it's definitely not something you should wake up one day and be like, I want to shoot celebrity branding. You should really work with people who you wholeheartedly believe in their brand, what they're doing, and kind of let that evolve from there. But if you really want to break into the whole branding world, I suggest reaching out to, an online influencer that may not have the content just right yet. They may not have, taken their content to the next level, or reaching out to a brand and saying, hey,
I want to help
break into this. I want to help you. Exactly. Because they may, again, and as you were even saying, it's still such a new world that people aren't really aware yet. People are starting to become more aware of how important visual content is. But it's just, it's still very new.
I think that's awesome advice, though. And pitch, if you want to explore this avenue, is how can you serve that person, and explaining to them what it is and how you think your imagery could influence their brand and their online presence. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had a friend do that and it worked out in her favor. And, the person was like, you know what? You're right. What is your rate? And then they figured it out. Exactly. Because they don't realize what they need until, they realize what they need.
I would love to have somebody come into my home and photograph me on the daily for like daily life stuff. And I'm kind of teasing, but you can never run out of photos when you are growing a brand and business and all that. So
100%. There's always content that needs to be made. So, if you're a thriving business and you really take like the visual aspect of it seriously, or you're starting to understand the importance of it, having that working relationship with a photographer is essential because they're going to help you grow.
Totally. So let's dive into
Yes.
something. Can you give me a rundown of a week in the life of Ashley Burns?
A week in the life with me. So on average, I am during the weekdays, I'm on 3 to 5 branding shoots. And again, like those clients' needs range and their locations, like I'm on set in different areas of LA. So there's definitely a commute involved. And if anybody listening is aware of LA traffic, you feel me on this. We have to really plan our days ahead. A lot of my days are either on set shooting and then in traffic.
I get upset if I don't get a front row spot at the grocery store.
Girl! Oh boy. I know. I didn't even take you to the grocery store when you were out here. You have to pay for parking.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty crazy. Yeah. Unless you're in a suburb, then not so much. But that is so funny. And that's so true. I actually remember coming out and us having to run to the grocery store.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to park in the parking lot next door to it, not right in front.
Exactly. And mind you guys, like before she even entered the grocery store, there were like 5 people that were like, "Hi, Emma," because everybody knows everybody. And it's, whereas if I shop at the grocery store, I'm like, oh, yeah, never going to see that person again. Have no idea who you are.
Oh, I just love how different our worlds are, but it's so fun.
It's so fun. And I so can appreciate that small town feel.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so is your life. And so anyway, that was Monday. No, where are we now in your
That was Monday. Yeah. So, and then usually the night times are reserved for me catching up on email, editing sessions. I really don't like to sit on shoots. So I try and turn things around within a week and a half's time. Hopefully sometime sooner, depending on the week and how long I'm on set during a day. And then come the weekends, usually the night before a wedding. So Friday night is my prep night, making sure all my gear is in place, my styling boards are ready to go, cards are, cleared off and, formatted, and batteries are charged and all of that good stuff. So prepping everything the night before, getting the timeline printed out, the family checklist squared away. And then that way I can wake up with ease the following morning, knowing that everything, is ready to go and I'm not rushing out the door. The day of a wedding, so if that's on a Saturday, that whole day is reserved for the wedding day. And then I like to give myself, like, unless I'm doing a double header, I'll give myself the following day off too, because a wedding hangover is real. Any of you wedding photographers, I know you understand this.
Totally.
I know you understand this, Emma.
Oh, yeah. You get home that night and you're kind of pumped up, tired. Oh my gosh. The next day is ridiculous. It's
the wedding hangover is real. It is so crazy.
So friends, when I went down to LA, that was my first double header. Like,
was it really?
Well, 2 big weddings like that. Oh yeah, that was a lot.
It was intense.
I was exhausted, but it was awesome.
I think Emma saw a different side of me that weekend.
Oh, I loved it. No, it's just such a different world, but so fun and really beautiful venues. I mean, that's a whole nother story, but it was fun to see that, but also very difficult. I couldn't do double headers on the regular.
Yeah. I mean, let alone in LA too. It's definitely difficult. You definitely have to juggle it out and be smart about, how you're booking. Just, if one wedding's in one location and one is in the other, the drives are not always that easy. So
you mentioned something when you were talking about just prepping for a wedding day. And I just think this is so important as photographers that we could just touch on it, is those systems and checklists and how silly sometimes they seem to write everything out. I think it's so important to have a flow because it's so easy to forget something, and having your little things that you do, because you talked about how you get your images back really quickly, and that a lot of that, you've developed your style and your artistic, how you edit. That's not difficult to turn around, but that you have organization in place in the back end to ensure that it is a smooth, quick process, which elevates the client experience.
I so agree. And I think, I think energy bounces off energy. And I always say this to people. So anybody that knows me that's listening is probably thinking that's such a typical thing of Ashley to say. But it's so true that when you're going into the day of a wedding, you want your energy to be in the best possible place, because the bride is going to feel that energy. The guests are going to feel that energy. So if you are not in a very prepared space and in a very clear-minded and ready to go and bringing your best foot forward on the day of, then that's going to translate throughout the day. And, that's why I think being there, you will never regret being over-prepared, bottom line.
Exactly. And like you said, getting your head in the right space, even if you had a really crappy day before, where you let what happened kind of influence how the day is going to go. And that can be really detrimental in a lot of ways. And learning how to turn your head around, turn it around and be on, and not in an ungenuine way, but really that it is not about you. It is about the client and showing up and, getting it done. Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing to actually say, Emma, because I think that, it can be, at the end of the day, photographers and like any other wedding vendor, we are all human. Mm-hmm. We all have human emotions. So whatever is going on at home, we have to like compartmentalize, and we have to pretend like that doesn't exist on the day of the wedding.
Exactly. And yeah, it's not always easy to do, but so important. I don't know about you, but I am all about processes and workflows when it comes to running my creative business. My team can attest to the fact that I have a checklist for every task under the sun and systems in place to ensure every single thing that we do is not only set up correctly to stay organized, but to ensure that every single client has an elevated and personalized experience with me here at Emma Rose Company. This episode of At Home with Emma Rose podcast is sponsored by HoneyBook. HoneyBook is the management software I use to stay organized, manage invoices, send questionnaires, customize timelines, and get paid. Knowing that HoneyBook is on my side and streamlining my business truly makes the rest days that much sweeter. I've been with HoneyBook since the very beginning of my creative journey and can tell you that it's something I could not live without in my own business. The best news, HoneyBook is offering 50% off your entire first year for all At Home with Emma Rose podcast listeners. All you have to do is go to my website, emmarosecompany.com/honeybook to get started, get organized, and get your life back. We've talked about LA and the scene there, and obviously you work in a really fast-paced setting and lifestyle, but what do you do to unwind and regroup? I'm all about, as you know, the last year and a half on my own journey has just been all about self-care and wondering what self-care looks like to you and how do you take care of you?
If anybody can give the best advice on this, it's you.
I like to hear what other people do.
I know. And I'm sure you're going to touch on this so much. But yet self-care, I think it's a never-ending process.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still learning self-care because when you own your own business, you're so immersed in it that it's like, what is self-care? What is, your own space? What time do you take for yourself outside of, work?
And it's really hard when you love what you do so much that your work is your love. You know what I mean?
100%. It's so true. But what I really am trying to start doing, and I'm just being more cognizant of, is I'm taking time aside every year to go travel and see a place that I haven't seen yet. The reason I do this and why it's kind of not like this immediate instant gratification is it's something to look forward to. So, and then when I am, away and I'm traveling, it's completely about who I'm with and what I'm doing. And then I'm not caught up so much in work. So this year we're doing Greece and Italy.
Oh, I love it.
Which I'm super excited about. And I'm not working once. I'm actually going to buy one of those blogger cameras, really small that I can just put into my purse. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to bring my big equipment or anything like that. Like, it's just going to be me and, my family, and we're just going to go and we're going to have a really good time. That's self-care, and also being prepared, to get to that self-care. But I think from the day to day, I like to decompress, honestly, by the simple things. I really love, eating dinner in bed while watching my favorite show. Like,
love
that's
it.
a great, or using the morning time to just sit there in the quiet, drinking coffee. Like, that's the best.
And I know you like to watch your news in the morning, listen to the news. I love it. No, it's those little things, and that's what I always try to talk about, is that self-care doesn't have to be this travel to Greece extravagant thing. That's amazing. Totally. That, you know what I mean? I think that's fabulous, but it has to be in our daily life. It's the little things throughout the day that are important, especially too when we work from home. You lose sight of all that and how important it is when you're not doing it.
But I think that it even more so like you've become more self-aware of your limit. And I think, you're so good about making sure that you're exercising and doing what you need to do. I just started going back and doing bar. I'm all about bar.
I've never done that and I really want to try.
Oh my gosh, it is so amazing. And let me tell you, I went for 5 days straight and I had never felt better. Exercise is so important for mind, body, and soul. It does something to you that nothing else can.
My friend came over to work out with me this afternoon, actually, before I hit record on this. And the programs I do are a lot of weight and cardio intermixed. And I just never thought that I'd be the person who craves weightlifting. It makes you feel really good. And it's hard to always set aside that time.
And I think that, while you are bettering yourself, it's also going to make you a better business owner. When you're taking care of you, you can take care of everything else a lot better.
Exactly. So as we're talking about that, I want to just ask you a quick question. So what do you wish you had known when you first started out?
I think one of the bigger ones, or at least that's standing out in my head right now, there's probably like a million I'll think of later, but I think it is you have to grow thick skin. You can't take anything too personally when you're running your business, especially when you're first starting out. I mean, there are so many trial and errors that occur the first few years when you're starting your business. And like, that's the beauty of it too, is there's kind of no right or wrong. I'm sure there's some right or wrongs with specific things, but for the most part, you kind of pave the way. And I think just going into it with an open mind and being ready and willing to experience everything is just the best. Dive into all of this because it is a journey. Starting your business, it's not an overnight success typically. And I think just being able to put in the work and the time and do your due diligence, it will pay off in the long run. You have to be prepared for there to be constructive criticism. And that's a good thing. That's going to make you better. And it's not to hurt you. It's just to make you a better business owner, a better person, everything. And initially I took everything really to heart, as I'm sure a lot of people do.
The whole thick skin aspect resonates so deeply with me personally. As somebody like me and you too, like we're sensitive people, but learning how to look past that and know that that's not going to hinder you from growth and continuing to pursue your passions and everything, but being able to take criticism and tough situations that come up to learn from and to grow from, which is not always easy to see, especially when you're new.
No, absolutely. I think just being really willing and open-minded to feedback is essential. You're going to grow a lot faster. You're going to learn a lot more about yourself and the business. And ultimately, I think it ends up being a lot more rewarding, even though sometimes it can sting a little and you'll end up thinking about it a little bit more than you should. But it's a good thing and welcome it.
Definitely. I love that so much. Oh, that's fabulous. So I'm going to do some rapid fire questions with you just to let people get to know you a little bit better. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Is it possible to be both? Because I'm definitely both.
Totally. Me too. It's a trick question.
I know, right?
So yeah, I love it. Because sometimes, I'm up at the crack of dawn, I work out, get it done. And then other mornings I can't get out of bed and I'm up till like 2 a.m. So, it just depends.
Exactly. People would otherwise think like I'm like a crackhead or something because I can like stay up all night working and then I can get up really early the next morning, put my pot of coffee on at like 7 a.m. and the day is starting and I'm working the whole way through. So yeah, I'm both. If that's even.
Oh, totally. And it depends what you have going on. Okay. So do you have anything funny that's happened to you recently?
Funniest thing that's happened. Well, I feel like funny things are happening every day. But
I'm sure.
If you want to know something, I ended up laughing. In the moment, it was not funny, but now it's funny. I had so I snowboarded for the first time in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
About a month ago. So I went on like a 5-year hiatus and I loved snowboarding. And I went on a snowboarding trip with my boyfriend and his brother and his fiance. And I had a full-on meltdown mid-slope because I kept falling. And I'm like, what is going on? And like the perfectionist in me is like, I don't understand. Like, why am I not picking this back up? Tears streaming down my face. And so obviously in the moment that was not funny, but I look back and I'm like, how embarrassing that I would let myself get to that place. So now, I mean, we joke about it now. It's hilarious.
No, but that's hilarious. Not that you were kept biffing it, but I remember learning how to snowboard. Oh my gosh, when you catch an edge and you just eat it in the snow in your face, that's not fun.
It hurts.
It hurts so bad.
Oh my gosh, it was the worst, but that's probably the funniest, most recent.
Okay, next question. What is your favorite word?
Oh my gosh. So if anybody asks you this that knows me very, very closely, and you probably could even guess this, it would probably be literally.
Oh yeah.
Or
That's what I was gonna say. Obsessed.
Or obsessed. Exactly. Probably. I don't know if it's my favorite word, but it's definitely the most commonly used words in our house is literally and obsessed. People make fun of me for that all the time. I tell you, I'm around people for a full day and they're like, Ashley, I've caught myself saying literally way too many times. And I'm like,
it was
sorry.
because of my sister. That's why I started saying it.
Oh,
She said it
so
with
fun.
everything. But yeah, exactly. When you're around people, you don't even know you're saying it.
Well, we're just literally trying to get our point across, allegedly.
Okay, Ashley, what is literally the most worthwhile investment you've ever made in your business or life? It doesn't even have to be for business.
Oh my gosh. I think the hardest lesson you'll have to learn when owning a business is investing in your business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I invested in equipment, but it wasn't until I grasped the concept of how important it was to invest until you built my website. Having, invested that money into my brand was so important. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I understand the importance of investing in your businesses and in your life. So I look at things a lot differently now. You're partially responsible for that, actually. You built my website and that was like probably my first aha moment was like, oh my gosh.
I loved building your site. And what's fun about our friendship and actually with a lot of my clients is that brands evolve and people grow and shifts happen within a business. So I've had the pleasure as a designer to be able to stick with people like you. Your business hit a point where it needed something different and to be able to pop in again. And we just recently did this fall.
Every 6 months, I feel like I need an upgrade. And I think that's important too, once you've honed in on your brand and you've decided to invest in your brand and hopefully invest in Emma's services because she's the best. Once your website is launched, that doesn't mean the branding has ended there. You are ever changing. Your business is going to continue to change, which means you need to, if you need to rebrand or you need to restructure some things around on your website, like I think that's so important to learn too, is like you are never going to stop investing in your brand.
Totally.
So once you are clear of that, it becomes a lot easier to make investments. Obviously, the equipment is a huge investment, but that's kind of a given.
I like that you shed light on the parts of our business. I just recently went through this with my brand. I mean, same brand, but different. It was my web copy. I hired somebody and that was a huge investment for me last year. Not something I can necessarily hold in my hand, but it's there. It was my website coming to life.
And it's going to well pay for itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the other thing I think people need to remember too when they're making these larger investments, whether it be in their website, again, I hope with Emma, or with their brand copy or whatever that looks like for them. They have to realize okay, I may be spending X amount of dollars and you may be spending thousands of dollars in something, but you're going to make that back tenfold because specifically talking about the website aspect, since we're talking this, that was probably my best investment ever. Obviously, again, equipment aside, because that is your first impression.
Exactly.
That is the first thing people see. So if people are seeing this website that you can't navigate through and it's not clear on what you do, you risk losing a client that way. Whereas investing in you, who, this is your specialty and you want me to succeed and you want my website to look good because, it goes hand in hand. If I look good, you look good,
Exactly.
You're the one
my
building
name's at the foot of that website too. Yeah. And what I was going to say with that is finding somebody, and not me, I know, I love that you're pumping me up, but that somebody you trust that really is invested, like you said, wants to see you succeed because that has their name on it. The longer you can get people to stay in your site, the better chances you have of that booking. And the website is a huge first impression. I won't book people or invest if they don't have a website. That's just my reality. If they are just on Facebook, I just don't trust that. Not to say they aren't doing great things or have an awesome business, but that just validates what they do for me.
Well, and I think it makes you look more legitimate too.
100%.
It shows that you're taking things more seriously. That's how you stand out. I was once told that if people don't know what you do on the first page of your website, you're really risking losing a client. So that's just something I've always kept in the back of my mind, especially when we're working on when we rebrand for me, every 6 months or, when you even did my initial, from the ground up rebrand. It's so true. And nowadays with social media and just everything, if people don't know what you do semi-instantly, you're going to risk losing them as a potential client.
Yeah. And I think think you and I and several other people that like clients I've had in the past that I continue to work with is just reminding people when they're new and finding their brand and their voice and everything is that it is an evolution. Like it takes time. It's okay to grow and to change and to recognize how important the branding and standing out, like you said, online is. And I love that you shed some light on that because obviously I could talk about that all day, but I love that you as a client of mine and friend are able to see how important that was for your business. That just gives me all the feels.
Too, when people are new in the photography world, they think that, oh, well, if I'm investing in my equipment, that must be like enough. And that's the thing is like, there's this whole other side of there's the business, you know, and it's the most crucial.
You couldn't have said that better. There's so many who overlook that entire piece of it. And that's where businesses fall short.
Absolutely. And they wonder why they're not where, you know, you are or where, you know, another photographer is. And it's because like you have to understand and be able to navigate the business side.
What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
Oh my God. Wow. What a question.
I know.
Okay. I don't know if this is absurd. And I actually touched on this with self-care. It's so weird. But if I've had a long day, I love to eat dinner in bed and watch TV. And that may be so gross to some people to eat in bed. Eating food in bed, like dinner in bed and watching a show is probably like the most absurd thing. I love it. I know quite a few people are going to think that's gross to eat in bed. Especially,
I love it. I eat ice cream in bed. That's my thing. So I don't think it's absurd. I think it's probably so many people listening to this do the same exact thing. So Ashley, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to highlight before we kind of wrap up this episode and our time together?
I just would say that anybody that, you know, thinking about making photography their career path and doing something like this full time, I say to go for it. I initially I had the support of many, but it's those few people that don't believe you can make something that's not a 9-to-5 a career that like it'll really stick with you. And I remember still to this day, you know, the people that didn't believe that I could turn this into a career. And how much that stuck with me and affected me. And I will just say, just because you're not sitting behind a desk does not mean you're not going to go somewhere. If you want to not do what everybody else is doing, I think that's amazing. And you go, girl or boy, and you follow what you're passionate about.
I love it. I think that's a fabulous way to kind of wrap this up. Nothing to lose and everything to gain, you know, and there's a season, and whether it's your season now or in a few months, hopefully it's now, but acknowledging that you can do whatever the heck you want to do.
Absolutely.
It might be pretty hard and difficult, but you can do it.
Yeah. And if you believe in something and you're passionate about it, nothing should ever hold you back from diving into that.
Oh, all the feels, Ashley. I know you are super active on Instagram. So you guys follow Ashley at Ashley Burns Photography on Instagram, and her website is www.ashleyburnsphotography.com. Ashley, your work is amazing. This episode was so fun to sit down with you in this space.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to support you on this new endeavor, and I cannot wait to see how you grow with this space. You're going to kill it, and I'm really excited for you.
Thanks for listening to At Home with Emma Rose. Visit athomewithemmarose.com and dive into the show notes for every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.